Okay, so I'm recording this with like not my headphones, like mic. So if the audio is weird, I apologize. Also, my window is open, so if you hear any weird sounds, it's probably just outside. Um, anyways, so, okay. I said I might not make a video if the episodes were good. They were good, and I am making a video, so I'm contradicting myself. But, basically it was episodes 11 and 12. Most of 11 was the main male lead's parents, actually, which could go either way. Because of the way that 11 ended and the way 12 ended, I'm okay with most of 11 being dedicated to the parents, because that was kind of a plot point that was like kind of needed to be talked about, because his parents were on the verge of divorce, and then they were going to get a divorce, and then it was like this huge issue and this big thing, and then they ended up reconciling, and it was actually really sweet because the reconciliation was like really long overdue. So it was actually really nice to see them, and he kind of reconciled with his parents as well, because they'd had kind of a lot of issues from like childhood things and trauma and just issues and whatever that just were, like never talked about. So it was just like long overdue. So that was good. And then the end of 11 was them finally deciding they wanted to date. Holy cow, it took so long. I've watched shows where it took this long, but like, man, I was getting really annoyed. I was like, okay, tell each other you like each other, which is crazy because he did tell her he liked her so long ago, but it took her so long to like him. So I personally wasn't a huge fan of the way she finally like realized her feelings, because it seemed kind of abrupt and not dramatic enough for how long we had to wait. But at the same time, I think she kind of had feelings for him buried very deep within her, but it was just, she had so much going on with her health crisis thing, and then her ex popping back in, and then all her feelings for her ex that she still had. So it was like, Girly liked, I think, the male lead sooner, but it just wasn't acknowledged or truly realized until now, because she just had so much she was like working through, which is fine. It just felt like a little anticlimactic, but it's okay because the end of 12 was fantastic, so it was all worth it. Anyways, so yeah, that's episode 11. And then 12, it's kind of, they're in this kind of weird limbo because now they're dating, but they had been friends for so long, so their dynamic is a little weird. It's like a little bit awkward at times, and then they kind of have like this, not like an actual argument, but like a little issue situation. And then they eventually talk it out, and they're both like, hey, I'm sorry that I did this. And she says she's sorry. He says she's sorry. She says she's sorry. He says he's sorry. Whatever. They reconcile. It's fine. And then it's still like a little bit like, they're still like a little awkward. And then, so this is episode 12. Okay, so this is like almost the end of 12. And it's a great scene. So she had gotten all these comic books that she thought he liked. She was like, oh, this is your favorite series. And he's like, oh, I only said that was meant, like, I just said that. Like, I actually only went to the comic book store because you were there and I wanted to see you. Which is just a whole nother thing. And so she was like, oh, wow. And then they're talking or whatever. And she finally they finally start to talk about the fact that where she's kind of like, I feel like she's like, you won't even look at me in the eye. You're like acting really indifferent. She's like, I feel like you don't even like, she's like, you treat me worse than you did before we were dating. And she's like, kind of just like confused. And he's like, oh, I was just so nervous around you that I couldn't like deal with it. Like, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like, my mind would just go blank. And so they have this whole conversation where because she's like, I thought you didn't even think I was attractive because you were just acting so weird now that we were, like, I thought you didn't think I was pretty now that we're dating or whatever, which is also just like, she's just like confused, right? Because he was acting very calm and kind of indifferent and weird, but it's just because he was so nervous, he didn't know what to do. And then, okay, then they have this conversation. Now, it's a little bit weird, so I'm going to try to make it make sense. But he's like, let's take these comic books downstairs because they're in her room. And she's like, why? Like, we can just read them here. And he's like, let me shut my window. Hold on. Because there's just a lot of stuff going on outside. Okay, anyways. She's like, well, why can't we just stay here? And he says, I'm thinking bad thoughts. What kind of bad thoughts? Just tell me. what do you mean? What do you mean, right? And he's like, he said something like, I'm thinking, he goes, crude and cheap things. And I'm like, sir, you can share with class. What do you mean? And then he says unhealthy thoughts, right? That's what he says. So then she goes off on this tangent about food. I don't know. She's always talking about food because she wants to cook, which is, I think, part of just her character, but also she just likes food. So then she talks about how she liked all this unhealthy. She was like, well, I like all this unhealthy food. And she's like, it's okay. You can just think those thoughts, right? Which, again, it's just an odd conversation. But then he just goes, he's like, what about bad deeds? Girl, what? Huh? So anyways, so he says that, right? And she's like, you can do those too. Girl, and then they start kissing and it was so good. It was good. It was a good kiss scene. It was everything I wanted. It was everything I wanted. Because I've been waiting so long for them to kiss. Like, at this point, I was like, please just make out. Like, I'm so sick of watching you talk to each other. Like, can you guys just, like, say your feelings? And, like, the kiss at 11, like, in episode 11, was good, but it was kind of, It was cute. It was a good first kiss, right? They never kissed before. But then 12. That's pretty great. Yeah. I have no complaints. I do have a complaint. I still don't like the female lead's parents. Well, specifically the mom. I still don't like the mom. I still feel like she's just kind of the worst. And also, okay, here's something that I noticed. And so I'm kind of backtracking, but in episode 11, he reconciles with his parents, right? Specifically his mom. Because, again, they had all these misunderstandings and they never communicated. It was just all these issues, right? And because she was also just never there. So he just, like, missed his mom when he was a kid all the time. And, like, I think he kind of just resented her for being gone because of her work. But at one point, they're finally, like, talking and not arguing. He's just, like, really upset. So he's, like, talking just about each thing or whatever that's bothering him. And she says, like, I am so sorry. Like, I am so sorry. And, like, right? That's all she says, okay? The way that the female lead's mom could not say those stupid words to her daughter drove me insane. There's a conversation she has with her husband in the show, the mom, and, like, the parents of the female lead have this whole conversation where they're, like, just, like, they just feel awful, right? They feel so horrible because they found out that she had been ill and that they didn't know and all these things, right? They're, like, going back and forth. I'm so sorry. Never once, to my knowledge. I could have skipped the scene, but I don't think so. Because I honestly started to skip the scenes the mom was in. Because I was like, I can't watch you. But at no point did she ever just say to her daughter's face, I am sorry. She just said it to I was like, girl, be so for real. This other lady apologized to her child. You couldn't bear to apologize to your kid. And I don't understand why the writers wrote her in such an annoying way. Like, they could not, you know how it's like, there's, like, characters in movies or shows and they're like, you could never make me hate you. Like, they could never make me hate you, right? With this lady, they could never make me like her. Ever. I will never like her because when it comes down to it, even if the female lead and her mom have a good relationship now, all I can think about is all the times that she never said she was sorry. She was mean. She was aggressive. She just, like, never just, like, sat down and said, hey, I am sorry. It was my fault. I did something wrong. I made you feel horrible. Nope. She can't do that. It's just whatever. It's just a badly written female character. What's new? They don't know how to write female characters. That's not true. Sometimes, though. Because they don't know how to write mother, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Parental? No, moms. They don't know how to write moms. They don't know how to write them in a way that's, like, they can have some toxic traits, but redeem themselves by the end of the show and still be an interesting character. You don't have to be toxic the whole time and never have any redemption. or the redemption that you do have is like partial and barely there. That's just not a necessary thing. Anyways, I'm going to go through the rest of the show not liking the mom. I just know that because she's just the worst. She's so annoying. I can't stand her. Whatever. What's new? I already know that. But again, overall, honestly, these last 2 episodes were probably some of the best, which is also not, that might sound like a compliment. It's kind of not a compliment because honestly, the show has been really annoying most of the time. But now that they're finally together, I'm hoping that the show won't decide to do any other crazy things. I know in like the long run, there are things about the show that are like really like good. Like the ex's portrayal in the shows are low-key actually so healthy. So that's great. But honestly, other than those like 3 things, not a huge fan. They also have good chemistry. So I will say that. There's been a few times where I was like, it's like they're hard at times to figure out because sometimes it seems like they are just friends and there's no romantic interest, but then I feel like this last episode really like solidified, yes, they're like good romantically, like they fit romantically. It's not just like 2 people who have like friend chemistry but not, romantic chemistry. Oh, don't mind the bag sounds on the ground. Okay. Anyways, I think that's all I have to say. So we'll see next few episodes. We'll see if I make another video. At this point, who knows? Because it could go either way. So we'll find out. Okay, bye.